Well, I've started the stream up again. I don't know if any of you can actually hear me again. So it looked like at first that it was going to show, but we'll actually see here. Certainly, so it actually came back to the same room. That's that's surprising. So at least that's something that if it goes south, at least it'll come back to the same thing. Just out of curiosity, when I went live back again just now, did it send another notice that I went live? I have a feeling this is going to be a sort of a boy who cried wolf thing, and I mean there weren't many people anyways. I mean there's only like 12 or 13 people at the maximum, so it's not like I lost a bunch. But um, if they know that you know that it's going to go so shitty, there's not really much we can do there. I'm curious about the actual recording. It looks like this is just going to record a new phase here. I'm probably going to end up just archiving these and not leave them up. So, well, I got 5 people back, so that's kind of nice. Um, so I'm happy to see that some people are giving it the old college try here because I wasn't expecting it to be so difficult, I guess, for lack of a better word. And honestly, it worked really well yesterday when I went for my tablet. I didn't have any issues with Wi-Fi. This, I guess, I don't know, something with tablets in my house. Just every now and then um, they, disconnect. It's just how it is. I guess Wi-Fi is bad in my house. But the thing is, my PC never, you know, my PC never crashes. That's why I want to use the desktop. Anyway, so I'll have to clean up the video things. Those would be kind of embarrassing for videos. I know some of my videos aren't that great to start with, so if I have a bunch of junky live test ones, we probably don't want those out there either. Anyways, being that there are indeed a few people, I do have a small audience at least. I can at least do something. Maybe if we're lucky and the Wi-Fi gods smile on me, we can get back to double digits. So, what I wanted to do was go over the rocky reptiles, and so this was a little tidbit that was suggested to me. So, I'm not going to take credit for it, but it was a cool little team to use here. So the idea behind this is to definitely use shade like you normally would, but then all the people after that are a little bit less typical than what you'd expect. So anytime we deal with reptiles, especially with Rocky, the most common version is to use shade along with Cobalt. Because with Cobalt, he gets that Spirit Link up early. And then after that, we actually bring in, like I said, this is not by my design. We bring in Leo, then we bring in Cobalt here, and then lastly Dagrund. All these people have a very particular role for this team here. So Shade will go first. He'll usually kill Viperia, and then we can taunt, and then if Cobalt stays alive, then we can try and kill Cobressa, and then we can use energy from Dagrand. Now, it's a pretty cool team. It does have a pretty high success rate, although the first time that I tried it, it was quite annoying because right off the bat, I did Spirit Link on Viperia, and then she dodged the his first attack. So then Viperia wiped the entire team anyways. It was quite something. So let's go ahead and put this to use here and see if we can get a win on this one. Now this obviously is not this is not PvP quality, um, but it certainly is worth demonstrating the uh, the team behind it. Let's So there is the spore cloud. And I don't know what to make of this, but Cobalt is not giving the extra energy to unless they change Spirit Link. I don't know. I don't think I used Shade in this run at all, but Spirit Link's not up. That is interesting. So I guess we'll have to do that in the actual. We'll have to actually do that in PvP because I can't do it here if it's not up. So yeah, it's like the I don't know what the scoop is. Why Spirit Link doesn't exist in the tower, but I guess the tower's probably not a dungeon. That's probably why. Because I think the tooltip says starts all dungeons with extra energy, and since this isn't a dungeon, maybe that's why. So I'll chalk it up to that, being that it's not a true dungeon because it is a tower. Dungeons are underground. Towers go above ground if we want something, but we'll probably still win because tower opponents aren't as high quality, I don't think. And actually, I was supposed to taunt there anyways, but it doesn't really matter. Without showing the actual true mechanic, you know, it's not really worth it anyways. But we will do. I guess it doesn't really matter what we do, to be honest. So we'll just go ahead and take Viperia. But yeah, we'll get out of this tower then. There's no point in beating this down too much. We want to look at some actual PvP and look at some actual rune sets and actually do something that is worthwhile. And I do have a few things that I'd like to point out as far as PvP goes. So we'll touch on a few things like that. And I think for tonight, we'll probably focus more on PvP. We will do a little bit of crafting. I know somebody asked about that before. I don't know if they're still in here because with the technical difficulties, it's not a shock if anybody actually left. But some people are coming back, so I appreciate that. Can I auto run the towers on this account? Yeah, I auto run the tower pretty much daily. Now, this one here, I just switched out the teams just because I was going to show a reptile trick, but that was not going to be possible because it wasn't acting right. So, let's see. I'm just reading chat here as well. So, just got Shade. Should I ascend or max out Hopper? Oh, Shade versus Hopper, that is a real Sophie's choice. Personally, I think Shade is, I wouldn't say far and above, but Shade is much more important, I think, than Hopper. Shade is used both on PvP offense and defense, whereas I don't see Hopper used in as many situations because people will use Hopper on offense usually only for Emily or Leo teams. But on defense, Hopper is used for offense quite a bit. But choosing between the two, that's a tall order in my opinion. Personally, I would max out Shade before Hopper, but it depends on what kind of raids you usually find yourself in. Alright, so I'm going to get out of the tower here. But yeah, like I said, I do auto run the tower every day, and the team that I was using for auto runs is Torchy, and then Shadowblade, and then Yasmin, and then Bolvis. The reason being is the three main attackers, if they hit their epics, aside from Furnace, they usually pretty much clear the room, and it makes things very, very quick. Otherwise, I used to run it a lot with my undead team, but I've stripped a lot of the best runes off of there, so they're still good, but I just don't use them as much. And actually, I'm finding that the undead team is actually kind of falling to be less popular. So many people are so gung ho about auto runs now that they're really just using various Yasmin teams, and it's been much better than than the undead anyways. The only thing great about the undead team is they're extremely durable. You can beat the hardest dungeons there. So, question: team for getting Shades epic. Basically, just 3 undeads. When you run Pestilent Spiral, you pretty much have to run the undead team. That's one area where they're extremely durable. But like I said, even the Yasmin teams, if she already has her epic maxed out, you're gonna be cleansing that stuff left and right, anyways. So a lot of people can survive it. But I run Pestilent Spiral exclusively with the undead team. And as long as you put Shade in the first spot so he's not conflicting with Braum, or better yet, take Braum off of there and go with Shade, Yorick, Hansuke, and Zom, that would be a reasonable team as well. Alright, so we want to first look at, I think we're going to look at PvP is what I planned. So let's see what we have for raids out there. Now, before I get into the PvP, I wanted to touch on something. And one of the things that I see, and it's not just in general chat, but it's in our guild chat and just talking online with some other people's as well. And a lot of times when we say, oh, what's a good team for this person here, this team here, and so they look at their, I'll just give you for instance, I'm going to go do a raid, and I might ask my guild, what's a good team for this one here? How can I take this down? And I might say personally, go a Shade, Shadowblade, whatever, Cobalt or Viperia, and some other. I might just say something. And then somebody will say, oh, I don't have my Shadowblade runed up, so I can't use him. And I'm like, okay, that's not really a good excuse. So I've come up with this little acronym, and it's kind of stupid, but I like to come up with acronyms. But it's kind of stupid. And I called it the Europe method. And it has nothing to do with Europe at all. But one of these days when I was just sitting at my desk at work, I was just thinking of something. It's like, you know what? This actually kind of works out as an acronym. So if you spell out the word Europe, basically it means this. It stands for equip, unequip runes on people every day. And so that's how you should be approaching PvP if you really, really want to get on streaks. If you're saying that you can't use a particular team because Shadowblade's not runed up, then pause, take a break, and put some runes on him. That's all you have to do. I mean, if you don't have the hero, that's one thing. But if you have the hero and just don't have the best runes on him, take the runes from wherever you need to do to make the team and just rune them up. I mean, you have 2.5 hours to not lose your streak. And so some people just want to burn through raid after raid after raid. And honestly, when you get into this, I mean, unless you're competing for the top and you need to get 670 raids, yeah, switching out runes can be a major pain to do so. But if you're just trying to get streaks so that you can maybe get into the next league, then just bite the bullet and strip some runes off of people and then, equip them appropriately. Especially if you don't have a ton of superior runes. Like, I don't have superior runes on every single one of the main meta heroes. So occasionally I run into issues like this here where Cobalt, for example. Dang it. Cobalt has been missing that first purple rune for about 2 months now because I plucked it off of him because it was a superior rune with extra damage to this or that. I don't remember where it ultimately went to, but I think I put it on Shade when I got Shade. But that's ultimately what it comes down to. If you have a nice legendary rune on someone and you need it for PvP, guess what? Strip it off, put it on that person you need, and circle back around to it. So I get a little bit uptight when people say they can't do a particular team because they don't have them runed out. If you have any runes at all, just go and pick the actual team and put some runes on them. So if we want to experiment with some rune stuff and build some stuff, we can certainly do that tonight. I will definitely take requests, but our goal is going to be to try and beat some of these tough teams. So let's go back to PvP, and let's just get started off on a good foot to maybe build a streak here. So we do have a Reptile team out there. This one is, fortunately, it's Rocky Reptiles, and also, fortunately, it is not a very high rune team. So if you're relatively new to the PvP game, um, basically the only thing that matters in PvP, unless you're extremely out leveled or below level the opponent, the rune power is all that really matters. So this one is a 2900, which pretty much anything under 3000 is almost an auto win for me. But that's just you know how I feel. I've certainly lost my fair share of teams that should have been easy wins due to RNG or just overconfidence and things like that. But this one here will be a great opportunity for us to test out our new mechanic here. So let's go ahead and pick the team here, which is going to be Shade first. Then it is going to be Leo. Then it is going to be Cobalt. Sometimes this differs a little bit if Cobressa is first instead of Viperia. Some people are, you know, if you're using this team, it's not always the best option because you have to basically Spirit Link on Viperia to kill her because she's going to get that double turn. So if it's out of order, it kind of changes things a little bit. But it doesn't mean that it's impossible. So the idea behind this is that Leo's going to give us a little bit extra defense, and then basically once we kill Cobressa, then it's over. So Krex is really nothing unless he's a really, really high attack Krex, which I've seen before. But yeah, I kind of get cocky with my streaks as well. There was one night where I basically been saving the farmost raid because it looked like an easy win, and then I got my skill up to, or my streak up to about like 15 or 20. I'm like, I should probably cash out on this because I was about ready to go to bed. And then I did it, and they were like a 68, and it looked like an easy win, and I didn't really look at the runes at all, and got absolutely trounced. It was embarrassing. But on a positive note, I did manage to beat BBS 72. If you follow the forums at all, I did manage to take his team down using a Furno team. So that was probably, to date, probably one of my most satisfying wins. I think his rune power is about 5200. Do I have a stream moderator? No, because largely I don't know what that is or what it is supposed to do. So these first 2 days, like between yesterday and today, are basically just test runs to try and get the mechanics down to learn how to do the streaming properly. I started the stream on PC and I didn't like how it looked, and so I switched to tablet. Tablet failed, and not half the people, pretty much all the people except for 2 left. And then we had some issues with being in one room versus another, so that was kind of it's been an overall circus show, but that's how it is. Alright, so notice now, we have Spirit Link up again. Spirit Link is basically what we want here. And Spirit Link's not up, sorry. The Possession. Possession is what we wanted. So the chat moderator is to prevent people from spamming links or insults. I don't think that's going to be a real issue right now with only this many people. I guess if I do end up with a successful stream and we get, let's say, 100 people, then maybe, it'd be handy. Yeah, I could see, we run into the slightest technical malfunction and everybody says, okay, screw this, I'm going on to something else. And I certainly don't blame them for that at all. I mean, it is what it is. I would do the same. So, but yeah, something to look into, I guess. Certainly something that I could, try out. We'll see what happens when I plan the next one. I do want to plan another one of these. I'm hoping that it's low attendance tonight because it is holiday weekend and it's almost midnight. And some people have pointed out that it was probably not the best time to have this. But when I first scheduled it, I was actually expecting anybody to show up, and so the fact that anybody's here in general is handy. Furno gameplay is actually going to be coming. I'm going to do a little bit of PvP first, and then we're going to do some Furno. I actually have a fun little adventure for Furno to show how awesome he is. But we're going to do a couple of raids here just to please the PvPers, and ultimately, just look at some of the teams that are out there and see what's good to go. So is Cobalt good in all game modes? I would say generally, kind of, but not really. The Rune on Shade, offense or defense, that is sort of a epic debate. Personally, I like going all attack, but if you put him on PvP defense, if he's anything in the first position, usually go with straight defense. So this team here is an interesting one because we have Shadowblade. It's only a 3,500 rune team, which I feel like I could probably beat with a bunch of different teams. I don't know what people have been using these days, but pretty much if there's a Shadowblade team that I want to take on, I'm usually going to use a couple of reptiles to do so. Now this one is, I don't know how viable it is because they have Leo out there, so I have to use Hopper to take care of that. But then there's also Kira. Now, normally Kira is going to die to Shade. So the problem here is that I don't have enough people to use, because I would usually use Shade and then Shadowblade to kill Kira, and then kill, what do we call him? Kill Koros. The teams that I usually use for Shadowblade is to put both Viperia and Krex out there because it's a forced taunt. His rune power is low enough where I think I can soak some of the damage if I get hit. So I would actually just use a straight Hopper team for this one and actually try to bait Shadowblade with somebody else, like Zen or Cobalt, for example. If we do Cobalt, at least he's going to die on the second turn from Kira, which is probably our best option. And that will open us up to have both Shade and Shadowblade to take out the big damage dealers, and then Hopper to prevent the resurrection. And then this should be an easy win in the long run. But yes, I agree. Cobalt is he's a dungeon runner. If you use him on an energy team with Echo and Indigo, he's pretty much an energy beast, and he crits like you've never seen before. So we're going to put a bait out there here. The only thing that will really send this one sideways, there's no way his Shadowblade can kill my Kira. That's not, I'm not using Kira, never mind. I was going to say if I was using Kira, he wouldn't be able to kill him, but it's possible because I have an all runed out power on Shade. His Shadowblade could kill him. In that case, that's where I just reevaluate, being that he's only a single target one. If he kills Shade, I will kill Koros with Shadowblade. If he kills Shadowblade, I'll kill Koros with Shade. And then Kira's going to be diseased anyways once he hits Cobalt. And then after that, it's just a slow play victory. Question about other games. Most of my time is allocated to Dungeon Boss, honestly, because I manage both this account and a level 55 account, and I try to participate heavily in our guilds, so I have a lot of stuff going on, and then it just doesn't leave me a lot of extra time. But I do play currently. I play FTL on Steam, which is currently I'm posting those videos on my second channel. If you've ever made it to the end of one of my videos, I do mention my other channel. There's only 6 subs out there, but I said I don't do it necessarily for the subs. So this is kind of what a worst case scenario, where Shadowblade killed my Shade, and now I'm down to my Shadowblade and Hopper. So Kira's diseased, Koros is diseased, their Shadowblade is dodgy. It's probably going to be a loss, but I was hoping that Shadowblade would target Cobalt, because usually they go with one of the weakest people. Second channel is it's called DC Gaming. You can find the link to it actually. If you watch any of the videos towards the end, there's a link to it right in there. I know some people have mentioned that the other channel, there's like 20 other channels that call themselves DC Gaming, so... Alright, so let's kill Koros and get the big elephant in the room out of here, and then hopefully my bunny lives up to the to her you know, her talents. How do you get chat out of the left side of your screen? I honestly don't know. I don't even know what it looks like on your screen or anybody's screen for that matter. I've never actually even joined anybody else's live stream, particularly on YouTube. Good little dodge there. That's what we're talking about. So occasionally I've been seeing some Kiras that even when they're diseased are doing just absolutely a shit ton of damage. My Hopper is all health and defense, except for I think one rune is possibly a battle rune. This is going to kill Kira. Oh, he survived. He'll die from the wound, though. So we'll do a little bit of this. Even if that Leo is damage reduction, he's not going to make it. So really all I have to do is worry about that Shadowblade. Because he's not diseased. Yeah, something like this. Shadowblade's tough. And now I'm diseased. So... steal all those buffs. I don't know if this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Without evasion. Yeah, there's no evasion, so there's nothing I could do there. But yes, I do have a Hopper video up tomorrow. So this one was a little bit disappointing because of the opening attack. And maybe there was a better way to handle it or a better team, but that's, you know, that's neither here nor there. So, alright, so let's look at a couple of these other teams here. We could easily take out some of the easier ones, but we want to go with some of the high ones here. So this is a 5,000 rune team. These are the tough ones, so I'm almost going to guarantee this is a maxed out Hopper for attack. Power, power, Aegis. Oh, it's a balance. And another power. So with this one here, we may have a couple of options. Because Hopper may not kill everybody. We probably want to throw Cobalt in there just so that the other guys get diseased. We also have a fast Kira and a fast Shadowblade. So this is a tough one to deal with. So this is certainly not going to be an easy match because we have a lot to contend with. We can use damage reduction, but we also have to get some attack in there. So, questions from chat. Boss mode Sulfurious. Use, I don't know what the mechanics are for boss mode. If you're talking about regular, normal, or the normal champion or boss mode, normally I would say use Falcon and Yorick for sure, and then Yasmin, and then somebody else. And as far as gems go, if you only have 1,400, I personally wouldn't spend them on anything except for a superior rune. But with the rune tuning now, I wouldn't do a superior rune without at least like 2,000 because of the last tune. So, what I was saying before now, as far as dealing with teams that you don't know how to take on and you don't have so-and-so rune, this would be a perfect example of dumping some runes and actually trying to beat a team. So one of the topics that I had on this agenda for tonight was dealing with Hopper teams. Now this isn't one of the meta Hopper teams that I see, so I don't know how often you're going to see something like this. And this Hopper is not totally jacked out for attack either. So long story short, we might be more beneficial in thinking about what can we do after Hopper's turn. Because Hopper does have these two Aegis runes on her, it's possible that she may not kill everything. So my normal goal here would be to say what's the best option for me. And I'm thinking that my Shade would probably survive an attack from Hopper. and then that would open up my Shade to kill their Kira. And then I don't know about my Shadowblade, but if my Shadowblade killed their Koros, then it's just down to Shadowblade and Hopper. So if anybody wants to suggest anything here, I would certainly be willing to do a test run. Otherwise, as I said, I would try personally. If you don't want to do a damage reduction team, you really need to be in tune with where your heroes take damage from. And so a lot of times Shade is pretty tough even when he's runed towards attack, but we'd have to be expecting that he might actually die. Now this isn't the type of Hopper that I'm used to seeing, so I feel like Shade has a chance to survive here. So the goal is Shade against Koros, and then we will do or Shade against Kira, rather, not Koros. Battle versus Power Runes, I pretty much go Power Runes all the way, in my opinion. They tend to add the most possible damage here. So we can't get anything great as far as res here, so we can't use a Leo trick or an Emily trick. And then we're kind of out of luck there. So we basically have to brute force it and get down to the very end. I know that my Hopper can survive my defensive Hopper versus their offensive Hopper. I'm not really sure how that one's going to go, but it would certainly save us from, from some of those attacks. The main thing is to balance out the load with Koros and Kira and get some dark versus dark. So ultimately, without doing a large damage reduction team, someone like Furnace and Bauble and Astrid, and then one other to do the damage, you're looking at basically your ability to survive here. So in my opinion, this will probably be a loss, but it's one of those ones where when I'm on a streak of 0, I don't mind playing around, and I do encourage people to play, especially if you're not competing for the top 100. Just try some teams, and not enough people actually try things out. So in this case here, we will pick. Who else do we want to go with? We want to go Kira, actually. I'm actually going to put Kira before Shadowblade, because I feel like Shadowblade's probably going to die anyway, so I'm thinking he's just going to be off altogether. Furno, Lily, Astrid, Indigo. It's not a bad idea. I was thinking about throwing Furno in there just to mitigate some of this. I feel like in the long run he'll probably die from the combination of if Shadowblade goes after him and Kira hits him. Let's do that though. Let's throw Furno in there and get some other people. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to get my Spirit Link on early, even though Koros is gonna purge it. That's okay. So I'm going to throw that in there, and we're gonna use Furno is gonna go after Koros, so that's okay. He's a caster, so we can use Astrid. And then Lily is probably a good one as well. And then Indigo, I'm not overly keen on Indigo for PvP. I haven't really been using her much for PvP. She does do well with her crits, but the thing is, she dies really easily. So this one here, Astrid would be a great one for just the caster buff. It'll keep them alive a little bit. And actually, what do we want to do here? Just want to make sure there's nothing else that I actually want to go here. So the logic behind this is, normally I would probably use Cobalt so I could Spirit Link, but I feel like it's possible that I could kill their Shadowblade. He's got low health. Probably won't be able to kill Kira because of the lack of a crit, but buying superior runes from the honor shop, it's definitely worth it, but make sure you're buying on a week where there's a good rune in there. There's been a lot of griping about the rune this week where it's a double skill rune, and not many people know what skill does appropriately. I think personally skill was meant to go hand in hand with Furno, to be honest. And there's been people suggesting that Furno's damage reduction on this opening gambit here is directly related to skill. Personally, I wouldn't buy the double skill one, but when you get a superior attack rune that's like the red champion one, I would buy that one all day. If you go through and get enough honor on a weekly basis, I would say it's a good purchase. Counter against Mangled Jaw. Honestly, my counter to Mangled Jaw is usually Torchy to silence him. That's usually what I do. Alright, so let's see if this actually works here. I'm going to try and kill Shadowblade, because he's going to have the lowest health and is still susceptible to crit. Just like that. So even with the lowered attack, my Shade is so strong. It's good to go. So what I'm worried about now is the repeated damage on here. Koros obviously is not going to kill Furno, but Lily though. So now it's a matter of who's the most dangerous here, because we are not looking good. Because every attack after this point here is going to be pretty deadly. Because we got our little fire trick with Koros and it healed him. And so we need to kill. Kira is going to be a single attack first. So let us do Koros. So Wildfire. Heal a little bit. This one is not going to go well. This probably would have been a really good damage reduction one to go with. But it is what it is. He's going to one-shot here. Well, it was fun to try. So, not off to a great start with the PvP. But, you know, we can still get some wins in here or there. So what I'm ultimately looking for, I'd like to see one of these damage teams here, because they've been, or not damage, but damage reduction. So I could show some of the Lily stuff. Now Lily's been a fun one to do. Here's another 5,000 plus. There's a 0 rune. This would be one where we can actually, you know, beat easily. And actually, I don't know what my Astrid is. I haven't actually looked at her. It wouldn't surprise me if she's even runed at all. I bet you she's not even runed properly. As far as pay to win goes, I think honestly it's been pay to win for a long time. I think people quit because of various changes at certain points. There's been a few things that come up, you know, over the months and the last year or so, just random things that come up that people just absolutely don't like. Now, there's a lot of people saying that the rune tuning now is basically just giving everybody free superior runes with their legendary superior runes, and what they're not realizing is that people like me who just want to win any PvP matches in Legend 1 or 2 can't, because I don't have all the superior runes out there. And the people that were placing in the top 100, they were getting 2 legendary runes every season, where the vast majority of Legend people were just getting 1. And I personally did not find that to be fair at all, the fact that they were getting 2 runes. If they just got a superior instead of a greater for finishing in the top 100, the power difference would have been a lot better. But yeah, I've spent my fair share on this game. Certainly not as a pay-to-win mechanic. Well, that's probably why my Astrid sucked. She didn't have any runes. I must have pulled those off on here. But yeah, as far as spending on this game, I'll touch on that a little bit. Essentially, I started purchasing stuff when I was right around level 45. At that point, the game grew almost impossible to keep up. I was out of gold, I was out of experience points, or experience potions, and I had almost no gems, and there was basically nothing I could do at that point. And I actually liked the game, so I didn't mind spending money on it. But How you choose to spend your money is obviously, each person's own decision. But I felt like I couldn't keep up with the game at that point because there was simply no way to keep my roster leveled up. So I started purchasing right at the time when Furnace came out. So he was my first big purchase that I did. I didn't really care for it at the time because we didn't really know how to use him. But most of the time after that, I just buy little things here and there. So a lot of times, I'll usually buy something with the, specials here. For example, just like a week or so ago, I bought a bunch of gems, largely for this purpose tonight, because I was going to do some crafting tonight. So I did buy a bunch of gems in a package, and then obviously Furno came out, so I couldn't follow up with that. I didn't want to spend all of the gems, but that's basically where I was at. So, what do we want to do here? PvP is always going to wait. It's always going to be there. I did want to show one other thing, just to show how awesome Furno is. I think what I'll do is I'll show Furno, the one little thing that I want to show, and then we'll come back and we'll actually we'll try and do some PvP with Furno and see if we can find some fun teams to take on, and then ultimately if we want to switch some runes around, we can certainly do that as well. We can also look at some of the rune crafting as well. I don't know exactly what people were expecting as far as the crafting go. There's obviously certain runes that are better than others. Boss mode campaign, that's actually what I'm going to do now. So originally yesterday I suggested that we would run boss mode Kang Kong, and we would do it with a green team with no runes. Kind of changed my mind on that one. We're not going to run it no runes because I don't want to take the time to go and take my runes off of Lily and off of Furno. What we're going to do is something that is similar. We're going to do this. So if you remember my video with Lily and Nub Nub Stomp Permafrost Ice Cavern, ran just the two of them, and they just dominated. So we are going to do a little bit of just Lily Inferno. And this is boss mode King Kong, the 3rd level. So it's the boss level. The mechanic of it, all of them have chilling skin. So this is the hardest version of King Kong. And we're going to run it with just 2 people. This is not just to show how awesome Furno is, but how paramount Lily is to the entire game. People are starting to get on board with how awesome Lily is in PvP because of her oxidized sap, and she takes on damage reduction teams. And honestly, she's my go-to for any damage reduction. If there's a Furnace and an Astrid and an Emily and stuff like that, she's my go-to. She's quite amazing. And actually, hopefully I don't lose the feed when I do this, but I'll show you a replay of just how awesome Lily is in PvP. Keep in mind, my Lily is Rune for defense, my Furno is Rune for offense. And not even the best offense. He's just got some runes on here. But he had the best of what I had laying around. Alright, so we can use our first skill here. Just watching the damage on here is kind of nice. He puts out a lot of damage. Obviously, I picked a dungeon where we're elementally advantaged. And we have a fellow Justice Leaguer. Did you leave on purpose, or were you demoted, or because you quit, or something similar to that line? I've been in Justice League for going on almost a year at this point now. I don't remember the exact date that I joined. It's on my line feed somewhere. I can see where it actually went to, but you can see that these guys here don't pose much of a threat. Now, so the thing with this one here is we don't really technically have a healer. We don't technically have a tank. But what we do have is this here for one, the one with nature. I actually am not going to use it yet. I'm going to save it for the next room. Because I'm going to get evasion out of this here. And then we will just kill one of these guys. It doesn't really matter which one. And the elemental advantage at least saves us a little bit. So, not really anything. Yeah, I agree with you. The PvP was pretty gnarly. I threw some major fits over it, but I mean, my opinions don't really mean anything. But yeah, the top 100 after the first week when they got double runes, they were already stacked up way better compared to other people. And then the next week, then they had two superiors and a bunch of legendaries, and basically at that point they just started outgrowing everybody, and it's hard to keep up. So I personally don't anticipate myself trying for boss 100 unless unless I just have a ton of vacation and I can literally just PvP all day for 5 or 6 days straight. But honestly, I have no ambition to do that. That's not very fun. Do I think a level cap is everyone pay to win? You know, I don't like to say bad things about level capped. There's been a lot of bad blood between our two guilds, and I'm not going to get into that. But I know that there are some very high players that are free to play. So not everybody is pay to win, but I do know that they take their convictions very seriously when it comes to PvP and competing and such. So there are definitely a lot of high VIPs there, but that's kind of how it goes. All right, so we have boss frostbite on this guy, but we're just gonna use this here. We haven't I haven't actually showed his AOE yet, but Furno just he wipes the floor with these guys. I was kind of saving this one. See massive damage there, and the little bit of health that I lost, not a big deal because I'm gonna use the sapping vines anyways, and I'll get that back. So these guys shouldn't pose much of a problem. Just in the interest of not dying, I'm just going to use an energy potion. Just, just to stay alive. That may be sort of cheating, but honestly, we're running a two-man in boss mode, so is that really okay? Yeah, you know, actually, I was curious about the whole zombie situation. I'm assuming that something came up in real life, and he backed down a little bit and something was up. I noticed shortly after the Hopper video, he didn't post on the next epic that came out, and I thought that was a little peculiar. And a couple weeks later, still after he hadn't posted, I happened to check their guild roster. He wasn't listed as an officer anymore, and but he was still in the guild. And then just a couple weeks ago now, I checked the guild roster, and he's not even in the guild. I don't know where he's at. I sent a couple of private messages to other people in level capped, and nobody responded back. But like I said, I'm pretty much a nobody. Probably in their opinion, and plenty of other people's as well. I don't, you know, just a guy who happens to make videos. So that is me. All right, so I don't know if I can kill both of these, but I'm gonna try. We'll do this here. All right, so now that this happened, we're pretty much good because we're gonna get some plant growth, and we should be pretty much made in the shade. This here does, even though I can't crit, he does a ton of damage. And my Sapien Vines is going to be coming back too. There's that. Sapien Vines should be coming up soon. And then this should kill both of those things too. Once you get the plant growth on Lily and anybody that's converted to a plant, it's pretty much game over. So, mostly, yep, he does this at half health. That's pretty common, but we're going to have 8 stacks of plant growth. So he's screwed. Sapien Vines, and then Furno just takes it from there. So Furno and Lily combo is amazing. He just torched him there for the rest of his health. So that's pretty much how awesome Furno is. Now, if I ran this dungeon with Nub Nub and probably Bolvis as well, all of them without runes, I'm pretty sure I would beat it there as well. Now, does that mean that Furno is the greatest ever? I think it's more of that. Lily is a great hero for nature synergy. You can't really put a price on that. I don't know if Furno is really a game breaker. We had a good lively discussion in the Guild Summit chat about that, and we kind of discussed it, how there's a lot of player input that went into Furno to try and change PvP a little bit, but not completely break it. I think he's certainly a really interesting mechanic, but not so much that it's going to change things so much. I have not seen a lot of Furno defenses yet. I think that's part of it. The people that have Furno, they maybe don't want to put him out there because of not being 6-star yet. But we know the big spenders are going to have Furno at 6 stars within a couple of days. They're just milking the last few tokens so they know how many summons to do. But within, basically next week, we're going to see plenty of Furno 6 stars out there. But yeah, that was the one thing I wanted to show. That so even I used energy potion. 2-manning a boss mode is perfectly legit demonstration of how awesome those two are together. Anyways, so let's see what else can we do here. So it's 12:30, so we've been at it for sort of like 90 minutes, given our technical difficulties and such like that. But anything specific that people want to see? Like I said, we can go back to PvP and look at a few. Actually, I know what I was going to do. So if I disconnect, I do apologize. It wouldn't be the first time tonight. I want to see if the stream will quit if I back out of the game here. So hang tight 1 second. I swear, if it disconnects, I'll be coming right back. Don't leave. And it doesn't look like it is. So this is what I wanted to show as far as what am I trying to say? Oh, that was kind of a spoiler there. This is Lily in PvP. And she is ruined for straight up health and defense. The whole point with Lily is longevity, though, so that she survives and gets the 8 stacks of plant growth. So this one here, I expected this to be a fairly straightforward win, basically, with the mechanic. But let's just watch here. I saved this one as a replay because I went back and recorded because it was so epic, and I was thinking about posting this one, but I haven't decided if I'm going to. So whenever you go against these damage reduction teams, so that was what I didn't expect. I didn't even look at the runes because I'm used to just stomping this, and there Kai killed my Shadowblade, which I did not expect, and then Astrid went and killed Viperia. So normally, Astrid I would have dealt with Astrid right away, and then also Kai as well. But basically, he killed everybody, and here's just my defensive-based Lily. And so this was... it doesn't look like it would be a win. When you say use Arya, are you saying for damage reduction or for some other purpose? Because I don't tend to use Arya much at all anymore. It's just not something that I don't know. She's great and all, but I just haven't really been using her. But yeah, basically these guys just pounded away. Now, they were all straight up pretty much damage reduction except for Kai. And so really once we got him out of the way, the taunt on Furnace was a nuisance. And then, obviously Bobble kept healing him. And then I was diseased, so I couldn't do much. But once the Sapping Vines comes back up, PvP defense on with Aria. I guess that's possible. It's just not something that I've really wanted to do, I guess. So you can see this is set up on ×2 speed, and it's still a very long raid. I was at this for a good few minutes when I did it, and once I got to this point here where they were almost dying, then I felt pretty good, because the 8 stacks of plant growth was paramount to winning this. So literally nobody did anything except for Nub Nub did get that first heal in there, which ultimately helped her survive those first couple of turns. But yeah, ultimately we go back and look at that one, and just having Lily in there, she's amazing at PvP, especially for damage reduction. All right, so we did some Furno stuff. Why don't we look to see if there's any raids we can do with Furno, just to check that out. And maybe what we'll do is we'll pick on some of the lesser people to start with. I know a lot of these, mostly when I do my PvP, honestly, most nights I just do probably, I don't know, 16 or 20 raids. I just reset a few times. I'm using almost the same team for everything. So just in the interest of showing, a normal team that I use basically almost every single day is Shade and Shadowblade. And then if there's a Kira on their team, I will use Cobalt as well. But something like this, where there's Kai in there, basically I'll just throw Cobalt out there. And I'll throw Ponti out there. And these guys don't even need to be ruined heavily, because Shade and Shadowblade do all the heavy lifting. And he's a lower team in general, so he will not be able to survive. So we talked about Furno a bit already. My opinion, Furno is very, very good. I think Furno is going to only get better with more stars and more tokens, basically. So it's he's definitely good. I think for a lot of people, it's going to be understanding how to use him appropriately. Because we saw before I had Furno on one of the teams, if they're dealing with a bunch of high damage before Furno's turn, even with that damage reduction, he's going to end up getting killed, and that's the problem. So we kill Astrid. I probably should have used, well, no, because Shadowblade will kill Ponti. I usually like to use Shadowblade against Ponti because of the magical thing here. Sometimes Shade doesn't kill him. We know he's weak if he couldn't even kill Cobalt. So I think their Shade will likely die to Cobalt and Ponti. So I mean, this is just just a free win anyways. I wasn't expecting to lose this one. So defense of Lupina, Kira, Shade, and Emily. So here's the thing. I did quite the editorial on PvP one other day in terms of good defenses. I think actually it was in my Beast video. I certainly have nothing against Lupina in defense, but the thing with this is, depending on your level and who you're going up against, when Lupina goes first, you're basically giving the attacker a free turn. They can literally use anybody they want. They can use AoE Kira, they can use, at worst case, they could use Ember to buff everybody, and that's going to be a big one. But anytime I see Lupina first, I'll attack those all day long, because that gives me free range to one-shot anybody with Shade, follow that up with Shadowblade, and do pretty much whatever I want. So my general preference is to use somebody that has so high of an attack on the first round that it forces them to either use something like a Cobalt Death Trick, or if you use Shadowblade first, it would force them to use a taunt with Krex and Viperia. My preference is always to pick either Shadowblade or Shade first, because their attacks are going to be random ones. Yes, they will attack certain people more often than others, but the thing is, we all know exactly who Kira is going to attack first. He goes after that first spot. It's very, very predictable. Whereas Shade going first, he might just randomly go after somebody and kill them. He might randomly try to attack Furnace first. We don't really know what's going to happen. I like the randomness of both Shade and Shadowblade. So that's my opinion when dealing with attackers. You know, just I don't like having Lupina go first because she doesn't do any damage. Saw the same thing a year and a half ago when people would put the undead team in there, and then Yorick would be going first. Well, Yorick does marked for death and gives the attacker a free turn, and I don't like giving up free turns in this game. So my PvP defense, I use Kira right now. That's kind of against my rule, but I thought Kira, when we're dealing with reptiles, Kira and reptiles is not one of those ones where you can just kind of trick it, because the reptiles, you have to kind of respect the reptiles. So having Kira go first here, basically what that is a deterrent for having somebody bring in an offensive Shade, because my Kira will kill Shade every time, unless he's defensive ruined. He kills a lot of Shadowblades. He kills a lot of everything, to be honest. My Kira is ruined very, very, very heavily. I think, with the exception of Shade, Kira is my highest ruined hero out of everybody. I don't normally boast, because, like I said, I'm certainly not as higher than any of the boss people. But I put as much effort into Kira as anybody else has. So there's not a lot of room for improvement here, except for this first champion rune. And this champion rune was before I really got kind of back into PvP and started grinding up to legend. This was kind of in my downtime when I was feeling like PvP was kind of a waste of my time. So if this would have been a legendary champion rune, Kira would be even better. But look at him, he's got 1200 rune power. That is pretty impressive. If we added that up across the board, we're looking at well over 5,000 runes for the entire team if we put something like this on everybody. But yeah, so his stats-wise, 4,400 attack. It's pretty impressive. His defense from his epic, he's got high crit, he's got high dodge, and he's got the wushu trait, so he can't be crit against. And then his tenacity, I mean, he's probably one of the single best PvP heroes to upgrade, just because he's so unpredictable, aside from his first attack. So, but yeah, runes on this guy. We have greater champion, greater precision. I threw a little chilling skin on there. It just happens to be on there, but crit attack is good. Superior power, I just created this one the other day with the new guaranteed legendary. Superior champion, attack, defense, and then reduced from caster, so he doesn't get killed by Shade either. And then greater precision, crit damage skill. The only downside to this here, I mean, he doesn't get killed by Shade, but what really, really irks me is Shade will fear him and then he'll run away. That's the one thing that really gets me a lot of times, especially if I'm, expecting to maybe revive him or something like that. Okay, so that was a little sidebar, but yeah, normally I don't advocate for putting Kira first on defense if you're using some other just regular powerhouse teams. Use Kira in certain situations. But yeah, that could very well be why you've been losing your raids if if people are just easily killing your Kira, and then after that, there's nothing to, handle. Yeah, the haste rune. If anybody's ever actually seen a haste rune, that's an achievement in and of itself. I've seen one probably about 3 total times since they've existed. I've never actually seen a screenshot from a guild member that has one, so I've never actually seen one in person, but I've seen it trigger in PvP, and it is a killer. Haste rune, basically, it's a 4th stat that essentially it has a small % chance to basically grant haste, and it'll say right on the screen, it'll say rune haste, and it basically kicks in haste just like if you're using Rocky. And it is awful because it gives them evasion and it gives them a second turn. which is just, for Kira, is just, it's bad because he already gets these free turns from Tenacity. Yeah, so I know there are some people have said, I can't confirm it, but there's people that have said that there's some people that have like 2 or 3 of these things, but those are the people who claim to have all superior runes on basically every hero and such like that. And I don't, I'm VIP 9, but I haven't spent that kind of money, so. Alright, so, I don't know what the scoop is with Mr. Shadow Dragon players. I guess that's why we're supposed to have the chat moderator to boot that guy, huh? Yeah, exactly. The chilling skin, basically, it's if somebody hits Kira, they stop gaining energy. But the thing is, it's only good for PvP defense because the other guys already have all of their skills up. I put the user in a timeout. I don't really know what that means, but we'll see what happens. Put him in a timeout. But yeah, so basically, it doesn't trigger every time. It's just like any other fourth stat skin rune. It has a chance to basically issue the proc here. So in the case of chilling skin, it's a possibility that when someone hits you, you could chill them. Doesn't happen very often. It's honestly not a high priority. The big ones that people like are the burning skin. That one's pretty nasty. So what heroes do you not need damage is that we were asking for? Like, which heroes do you not need to stack damage on? Or are you saying, like, the damage trait on a rune, like +% damage? I guess if you want to elaborate on your question. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get better at the streaming eventually. Like I said, I'm not a professional cam girl, so I don't do this for a living. I definitely prefer Goblin Team over Undead. They're certainly much more fun to watch, and in general, they're a faster team when you're auto running. And the auto run on the Undead team tends to be a little bit slower because Hansuke and Yorick don't do a ton of damage, whereas the Goblins, they just keep critting and killing everybody. The haste runes obtained, you can only get them from crafting at this point. So it's already a random roll on getting a 4th stat on those heroic or legendary. And then after that, you're looking at probably maybe a 1% chance at best. So, okay, so the difference between damage and attack. Let's go out and look at some rune theory. Like I said, we can do PvP whenever and wherever, and honestly, I think most of the subsequent streams that we do will likely be PvP oriented. But I did want to have a good portion of Q&A stuff where we could talk candidly, and I know some people prefer that. So here's the scoop. When you look at a hero, every hero has stats. They have an attack stat. They do not have a damage stat per se. They have a plus damage. So the difference between the two, and I've done some serious research on this. Don't quote me on it because I've asked for the actual numbers, but obviously the devs aren't going to give us the exact numbers for them. Attack scales, and basically it starts as this. So his base attack is 2,305. So that's, if there was nothing, period, he would do basically, that's what his attack level is. And what happens is, as you raise attack, the attack skill, as it goes up and it goes up, deals more actual damage. The number that I came up with is, for every 1% that attack goes up, the total damage output goes up 2.5%. And now this was after calculating many runs, looking at the actual stats and how much I raise it and how much damage they did. So I did this over the course of 40 or 50 just runs attacking the same type of a person in the same dungeon with the same hero. And so I tabulated all these, and for, like I said, for every 1% I increased the attack value, the total damage went up by 2.5%. Now the actual damage here is similar then, where it says after the roll is calculated and it determines by the system how much damage an attack will do, this value then kicks in and increases it by this much. So if you have runes that say increase damage by something, so 3%, it's going to calculate all the core damage first that your attack stat's going to give, and it's going to say, okay, your attack is going to do 40,000. And then if you have an extra 10% damage across all of your runes, it's going to take 40,000, add 10% of that, so that's another 4,000, and it's going to yield a final result of 44,000 damage. So the damage, the plus damage, while it's actually good, attack will always be better than percent damage. Because based on what I said before, if you raise your attack 1%, you're getting a plus 2.5% damage. So in the scheme of things, this 3% damage is absolutely nothing. Because 1%, going back to this here, 1% of attack is... well, 10% of 2305 is 230. So 1% of this is 23. So it's very easy to increase the extra damage based on attack, which is why people always say stack the attack. The percent damage is obviously great on certain runes. If you have attack damage, this is the best power rune you can get. You can't get better than that. So attack damage is what you want. You want... as much attack as possible. And yes, there's always going to be things with the damage. The other thing that percent damage does versus attack, I think there's some stuff when you do the added dot damage, there's some other calculations that take place. So when Furnace goes and he burns you, for example, there's other things there. But in general, the way that the attack scales, it just vastly outpaces the actual percent damage. So even if you get plus, I think I even have one on here, this plus 15% damage to tank, it looks really great, and it's the highest percent damage you're going to get on a rune, but it's also not going to compare to having, 800 attack on this rune here. So, but yeah, that's the general gist of it. Attack is just a roll that's calculated before extra damage is assessed. Percent damage versus damage reduction. I've never actually run numbers on that one, and part of it is because we can't see what PvP defenders have. I know for a fact developers have said endgame, not endgame, but one of their goals is to revamp this interface here. And we don't have a timeline on it because there's going to be so many other things that are coming up, but this here will eventually show us the entire rune stats. Once we can see the entire rune stats, then I know there's at least 4 or 5 people on the forums that are going to be going nuts with the number crunching. I personally haven't gotten around to any number crunching recently, but I know that as soon as we can see what the defense has for damage reduction and we can start comparing their actual defensive tallies and stuff like that, people are going to be really honed in on the calculations after just a couple of weeks. So... question for the Q&A. At level 70, you always be broke. Yeah, that's pretty common. So, tell me, first of all, how long, Mr. Gamer99, how long have you been a level 70? And are you any VIP level at all? That's the big question here. Because, the longer you've been at 70, that's basically the reason why I have so much gold, is because I don't need to farm hero tokens or anything like that. I've maxed most of my people out long ago, so I don't I don't spend a lot. And honestly, the big reason why I have so much gold on hand is because I've not crafted as many runes as some of these other people that have been 70 for a long time. So if we looked at my rune supply, it's like, yeah, some of my better players have some superior runes, which cost, 4.5 million to upgrade fully. But I just haven't been crafting that many. And then that's just how it's been for me. Once you get past the point where you're constantly adding heroes to your roster or upgrading your roster, those major gold sinks, then the gold just keeps coming in. So I haven't been really out of gold for a very long time. But chilling skin, is it common? I would say probably not. None of the skin runes are very common at all. And honestly, the fourth stat is not very common in general either. So, but yeah, leveling the runes, 4.5 million for a superior. It's usually about 4 million for a greater legendary. And honestly, I'm wondering if your main goal with upgrading rune, excuse me, if for upgrading runes is just to create a really strong hero roster. I mean, that's one thing. I personally just don't craft that many runes. And actually, if we look at my if we look at my bank here, I just have a bunch of them sitting. I mean, I could easily attach these to people, but they're out there, and honestly, I don't know what I'm waiting for. Like, why I haven't put this greater power on somebody yet. I mean, it's attack, skill, attack. It's a good rune. I mean, I have plenty of good runes that I just haven't put on anybody, and I really don't know why. Or even like the dark one, they have the superior tactics. I could easily put that on someone. I don't know, trying to manage two accounts. I guess I get lazy at times. Like I said, my PvP, I pretty much use the same teams all day, every day with just Shade, Shadowblade, Cobalt, and Kira. That's pretty much everything for me. It wasn't Boris that actually quit. That was Christopher Connor had quit. And he probably actually quit this chat too. I haven't seen him in a while. He probably went to bed. It's actually almost 1 a.m. So, yeah. Yeah, actually, I was going to use the word hoarder because if you look at my runes, I'm afraid, honestly, I really don't know what I'm doing with them because I only have 62. I was looking for ones that I was down to like a few spots left. I'm like, I gotta, get rid of some of these, but it's like I'm afraid to even some of these lower ones. This superior destruction. I feel like if I scrap it, well, what if I could have put it on somebody just random, like, Samurai Takumi or whoever, anybody else. And honestly, I haven't even upgraded because I didn't want to waste the gold on it. Not that I would need the gold, but I just didn't want to waste 100 million gold just on upgrading runes. And honestly, if we're being honest here, I had been waiting for something like spending gold as a event quest, which came up in the guild games. But anybody who participated in the guild games will know that it was not worth it for anybody outside the top five to just start wasting their gold on that stupid gold quest because we could probably all agree that the guild games were not very fun. Three superior tactics runes on Hopper, all 10% damage reduction, but he still takes so much damage. First off, Hopper is a she, so she still takes damage. Second off, aside from that, are you also, what are your other two runes and who's she taking the damage from and how many stars? Because those things definitely matter. Because if you're taking pot shots from Kira, I mean, it's going to be rough. And also the tactics runes, I don't know that I would commit to that one per se because the tactics runes has a different layout. For Hopper, I would tend to go with a bulwark instead and hope for a fourth stat. But yeah, so I do have a 10% PvP tactics rune superior. That one looks good. But notice there's no health or defense on there either. So if you're not stacking bulwarks, defense is going to be weak, which is why I didn't put a lot of tactics. I just happened to get this one plus 10% reduction, so I did that. And actually, the damage reduction, to go back to this topic here, damage reduction works almost the exact opposite as percent damage for attacks. When you do PvP, you actually want the most possible damage reduction you can get, because when the PvP attack comes, it's going to say, okay, this attack is going to be for 50,000, and then the damage reduction is going to take place after that. And so it'll say, oh, 50,000 minus whatever 20% it is, and it's going to drop it down significantly. So it's based on that upper end, whereas when you attack, you're getting the extra little damage afterwards isn't as great. Defense doesn't scale anywhere even close to how attack scales. But definitely throw Bulwark on there to get extra defense. This planning runes have defense as well, and also health, which is good. This one had damage reduction and PvP damage reduction, and it's a superior one. Champion rune, more reduction and more health. And then Aegis for straight up damage reduction and more health. So the runes, I mean, you definitely need health and defense with Hopper if you're going to go with defense. And like I said, depending who's attacking her, if it's Kira, that chi attack and the dim mock, it's always going to do pretty high damage, but the teams that I'm usually going against, usually Kira's going to be diseased by the time that comes up. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the case. But so maybe not 3 superior tactics unless you can find some other really good bulwarks to put on there. But definitely look at the overall health and defense. I know mine is moderate. I don't even really remember what a really high defense is anymore, but 2600 seems to do well for her. She doesn't have a ton of health, but she's got 34% damage reduction, and that's not considering PvP either. So, I mean, she definitely has her strengths here. Do I use Grognog for PvP? I do not. The reason being is there's just not a lot of good points to use them on. The most common Grognog is going to be on any version of a beast team, or on PvP defense with Kozar. Now, Kozar is one of those weird ones where he was super powerful. Everybody used Zen Kozar in PvP for months and months and months until they changed Zen. At that point, I only had Kozar 3-star. I didn't have him leveled up, so I couldn't use him, and so I just never did. So honestly, I've rarely ever used Kozar, period. Certainly not in hardcore PvP, and definitely not in dungeons. So I never got on board with him, which means that I never used Kozar and Grognog. And if you take a look at my Beast video, I don't think I really cared for Grognog on a Beast team either, because I don't like how the Beast team plays as a PvP defense. Very easy to beat, and not powerful enough on offense with the PvP defense metas out there. So, that being said, on my level 55 account, Grognog is a staple in my PvP. Every single match is Grognog, because I'll use Torchy to silence, Grognog to slow the rest of the team, and then Koros and Ponti will wipe the rest of the team. With the exception of now that I'm 55, I'm running into some seriously stacked teams. Torchy gets killed, and I basically can't survive. So PvP on my alt account is almost non-existent at this point, and I'm actually going to probably nix out the last few PvP check-ins, because level 50 and 55 PvP is almost non-winnable in some cases for me, because I'm so far behind in hero roster power and ascensions and stuff like that. It's tough to keep up with the people who've actually started spending gems and such and being more powerful. As far as my guild is Justice League number 1. It is I guess if you want to rank us, I mean, it's a number 1 guild as far as crown count. Guild games, we were number 10 or number 11, so we're basically a top 10 guild in the game. We've placed... I think we've placed single digits at one point, but we don't really compare it in guild games to some of those other guys who really, really pour in the time and effort. Put defense on glass cannon. I personally wouldn't do it. It depends on who the person is, though. But I would say putting defense on any glass cannon is probably a waste. So, Bobble and Emily's that take close to no damage, if none, not from any attacks. What kind of runes do they have? So, Bobble and Emily that don't take any damage, usually the reason for that is because of Furnace. Furnace gives an extra defensive buff for extra armor. And so basically, they're stacking damage reduction. They don't need to have the bulwarks for health and defense, because what they're doing is they're ultimately stacking the damage reduction between regular and PvP to get that almost up to 100% damage reduction. That's why those guys are always invincible. And in order to beat them, you just use basically Lily. If you don't have Lily, then it obviously becomes a lot tougher. And you want to use somebody that can do spirit damage, basically, so you're not doing physical damage. Instant Potatoes, is that one of the like 50 potato army guilds? How far down on the totem pole is that one? I'm not seeing a response. I'll just wait for you to respond. Alright, so what else can we do here? I remember seeing Forsen Boys all the time. It was one of those ones that was heavily spammed in chat. And I didn't really know who they were or what they were about. But I definitely saw them out there. So, let's talk about some other stuff here then. One of the questions that I see in Gen Chat a lot is, and I'm actually going to do a video on this, it's about farming Aether. So, some people that come out, once they 6-star their first person, they're like, oh man, I really want to get 6-star Arya. And they start doing the calculations, see how much Aether they need, and believe me, it's awful. When I first started getting Aether, I'm like, okay, at that point, Arya was untouchable. I mean, she was brand new, and she dodged everything. She was basically impossible to kill. And I'm like, okay, every single bit of my Aether is going to Arya. And I put every single time I got 2400 went to Arya. Got Arya up to 5 stars. And then I'm like, okay, so now I need 250 more tokens, which is 50 pulls of this here. 50 times the 2400 is 120,000. So I still can't get her 6-starred right now. And I'm like, do I want to spend 120,000 on Arya? And I'm like, no. And so I started stockpiling Aether. And I just spent a bunch of it on these here. These have been huge, and I think I'm actually going to spend another bunch to finish off Lily, so she's 6-star. But these guys being added in here were great. But also, those of you that noticed when Shade went into Heroic Portal just this week, we got a new hero with Furno. The fact that all of these really high priority heroes are gold ones in the Aether shop makes me very, 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 very wary about spending my Aether on somebody else, because I know they're going to put out a new one, and as soon as I buy like 100 Bobble tokens, then my Aether's gone, and I won't have that. So, as far as farming Aether goes, I haven't compiled this yet because it is such a long list, and I just didn't want to do it. Essentially, it's about knowing what's going to be your daily available amount of Aether that you can easily farm. And so we're looking at efficiency in farming. So for me, when I'm doing the tower, I know that these two guys here, these Shade tokens and these Koros tokens, because I'm not really spending these cups on anything else anyways, this is an easy 150 Aether. And so we have to determine how much Aether do we want to collect per day, and it has to be part of your normal routine. So this doesn't cost me any stamina at all, and I can get 150 Aether just from those two things. When you want to start farming it, you have to start thinking about who's going to actually net the most amount of Aether for you. There's obviously a few of them that are the best. Obviously, those two are great. Ponti is really high as well. So every day when I also do the summon for the quest, do the honor summon, probably about once every 2 weeks or so, I'll get a full Ponte unlock in here, which is over 1,000 Aether. And so it's definitely very good. And so sometimes I'll do the honor summon here. I'm going to back out, just make sure there's a quest for it. Because it will be there to do a summon. I just want to make sure they're triggered. But if you get a full Ponte unlock, which I didn't, but there's more there, so that was 10 apiece, so 30. But basically what I like to tell people, if you're going to farm Aether, think of where you're actually going to get those and then just commit to a little bit every day. And I know a lot of people aren't doing enough to really farm the Aether. They're just kind of playing the game, and I kind of fall into that category too, because if you look at my hero roster, there's only a few guys that I don't have leveled up to 6 stars, so I don't need to do a ton of farming. So if I'm not doing farming, I'm not getting a lot of extra Aether, and at that point, you're just not stockpiling it. So usually what I'll do is I will look for ones that we can actually obtain as far as heroes go, and ones that I know that I'm going to get a reasonable amount of Aether for. And so it's usually just doing some of these other ones like Cobressa and Viperia and such like that, and just do a quick loot on their one thing here. And it's only 5 stamina. Pick out a couple and determine what your stamina cost is going to be. And so, didn't see it there, but I think she's like a 25 maybe. But basically, if you just commit to a little bit of Aether per day, that's how you're going to farm it. If you're looking at just doing the maximum amount of possible, pick a few of the guys that have a bunch of dungeons, like Squinch or Femus, for example, and you can just do a bunch of them. They'll only have 5 Aether per. If you don't value your stamina that much, it's easy to start racking this stuff up. So here's a good one. I love doing the math here. So you have the entire Great Portal 6-star doing the math. You can spend 19.2 million to get the 4,800 Aether for Arya. So, well, here's the thing with the Great Portal. The Great Portal is loaded down with 50% fail chests. So if you do the summon here, even if you do the ×10 for Great Portal, it says you're gonna get 5 gold ones, but you're gonna get 5 fail chests as well. Have you calculated that in here as far as the tokens? Because there's a fail, and then a lot of these other ones are just gonna be. Well, that one was a good one because it was a full unlock, I think, 75. But yeah, so as long as you calculated that in there, you can certainly do it. If you have the gold to do it, you could try it. But the thing is, a 1-star Arya is negligible. Personally, and I'll show you by proof here. Let me back out of here. A little bit of a freeze. If you have a 1-star hero, the person that it should be, right here, bottom of the barrel, Miss Ember. I have her 1-star because she doesn't need to be any more than that for me. The reason being is this first skill here, this thing. It doesn't say it in the tooltip, but I've done the math on this one. This raise attack and cleanses, burns, targets, whatever. That basically doubles your damage. I don't have the exact proof, but I've done some serious calculations on it, and it essentially doubles the damage of your heroes, and that's just a 1-star thing. So it's pretty awesome if you're gonna use your Aether. Definitely get your 1-star Ember before you start wasting anything on Arya, especially if you can't get Arya to 5 stars. Don't go wasting, especially if there's going to be a new hero coming out too. Alright, so let me look at some other questions here. There was a couple that I missed. Did I already test Furno in PvP? I didn't do any Furno PvPs except for one. It was against a 5200 rune team, and we got smoked pretty bad. Best taunter, in my opinion, depends on the team. As far as staying alive, I would say Furnace is right up there as far as a good taunt because he can't be one shot. Actually, fun fact: Cobalt is the only one that can actually one shot Furnace, and that's with a basic attack that hits the epic. But as far as best taunter, I mean, we could go back to some of the stuff that I did with my priority series with the tanks. I don't think there's any true one best taunter, but I'd probably say Furnace just for something to do. Did I hear anything bad about slow levelers on the next update? Nothing per se. Devs said they weren't actively trying to dissuade against slow leveling. They're basically trying to help people who are not slow leveling. So slow leveling is still going to be a thing. It's still going to be viable, but it's just not the direction that they want to go. Okay, per request, let's go do some PvP to finish this out before we run out of all of our time. So we want to mix this up and we want to show some Furno stuff in here. And then the runes on Ember, there's nothing special. They're all basically just junk. They were the best of whatever was left over. So they were just some resistance runes and some focus runes and a couple of life runes. I think a bulwark rune. Nothing really great. So they're really just on there for so she doesn't get one shot by Kai. That's the only real point. But I don't put any real good runes on her at all because I don't use her for healing or damage or anything. So I don't think I'm going to attack this Chris guy because I don't want to deal with that hopper right now without setting up a damage reduction. Being that it's already after 1 o'clock my time, I'm going to focus on the teams that I have, or the heroes that I have, and not do a whole bunch of rune unequipping. Level increase after 70, it's definitely something they've talked about. When they brought it up in the Guild Summit, a lot of people balked at it and said, do not do that. I was on board with that as well, saying, you raise it to 75, there's going to be a lot of quitters, because basically, all the experience potions and the gold sinks just to raise it a little bit is a little bit of a nuisance. Alright, so this here would be a textbook Cobalt team, because we disease with Cobalt to prevent Kira from killing, but he's lower stars and he's less, or not lower stars, but lower runes, not going to kill. So what we will do is we will do a Furno team. Should be a fun one to do. We just have to determine who we actually want to run with Furno. So let's do... Oops, I didn't want to back out of there. So it's going to go Shadowblade and then Shade. The throwing Cobalt in there, Cobalt plus the damage reduction on Furno is a good little option, but the thing is, if we put damage reduction in there, Kira's not going to kill Cobalt even, so it's kind of a waste sometimes. So we want to do Furno, and then after that we will do Lily. And then just to get rid of Shade, I don't want him doing Spirit Link in the second round, so we're going to kill him with Shadowblade. Oops. And then let's do Lily here. Dropped her accidentally. And then, really, I think it's fair game to pick anybody else. Who do I want to pick? Just in the interest of staying alive, I'll throw Nub Nub in there. If this ends up going into a marathon, it'll be an easy win because of the one with nature trait. So would I ever play other games here on this channel? You mean the channel that I have 400 subs on? Honestly, I think the people tune in just so they could watch the Dungeon Boss videos. I think if I put too many other videos on there, it would be there'd be a lot of people unsub. Case in point, when I first, not when I first started playing, but when I first started watching other people's videos, I will throw a name drop out here because I don't know if anybody's ever heard of him or if he watches my videos, but I was subscribed to a channel called Eroica Gaming, and he had some really great Dungeon Boss videos, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll subscribe to this, and then after just even a few weeks after me subscribing, he stopped posting Dungeon Boss stuff and only did this tank game. And I'm like, I have zero interest in this tank game. And then I unsubbed from the channel. And I feel like if I posted other mobile games on this channel, all the people that sub to see Dungeon Boss stuff are just gonna leave and look for someone else. Even if there's not really that many other people posting, I feel like they would ultimately leave. So that's part of why I have that other channel up, is because I want people to find that one naturally and say, yes, I want to watch this here, watch that one. But, you know, I'm more dedicated to the Dungeon Boss videos than anything. So, anyways, I don't think I'll be able to kill Shade, not with the reduced damage. But between Furno and Lily might actually die. Yeah, so like I said, when he did a couple of really great videos that I saw right from the beginning, and then just poof, one day they were gone. And it's like, I don't care about World of Tanks or whatever the hell it was. It just wasn't a high priority. Well, we seem to have lost our main guy. That's kind of a bummer. I didn't expect that coming. So what should have been a easy victory turns out to not be. And what's going to really suck is Shade's going to possess him then. Because I can't kill Shade because he's going to Spirit Link. So we know who's going to win this one. There, at least we did that. Now we know who's going to win. This is going to be all Lily. Because she's going to get plant growth, and we will rally from behind. Kind of a bummer, though, that Furno got ganked. Oh, I remember Pinnacle on challenge mode. Yeah, that was something. I remember I went through that one before Runes came out. Boy, was that a nightmare. Getting through challenge mode was a major pain. If you did that without Runes, that was some serious street cred at that point. There were some really tough dungeons there. We will see you next time, Michael. It was nice of you to stop by. I see people are starting to drop off slowly but surely, too. I don't know what time zones people are in. I'm guessing there's not many time zones that go past the West Coast, unless you're on Hawaii time or something like that. But yeah, so the next time I do a stream, we'll try and do it during the day so that other people can go. Yeah, you would think the buff would, or the debuff would go away, but that's how it goes. Alright, so we'll see if we can get a different one out here. I want to actually be able to attack with Furno, just because he does do quite a bit of attack. See if we can keep doing some of these middle-of-the-road raids here. Lord Fett, I beat him a couple of times. So this is a good one for... This is a Hopper team because of the Emily. So here's what we're going to do. It is going to be Cobalt. It is going to be Hopper. And then it is going to be Lily. And then it's going to be Furno. So the rationale behind this one is Basically this. I don't need attack on here, so lowered attack on Hopper or on Lily was not a big deal. Cobalt's just going to die anyways. He's going to disease Koros. And then Furnace is going to taunt. Lily will use her sapping vines, get a little bit of health back. Furno will be attacking Furnace. And then it's just going to be a slow victory with Hopper and Lily. We'll see you later, Cameron. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for your patience, too. Braden, you'll have to let me know who your team was again as far as swapping somebody out. I personally just kind of stick with some of the meta teams. That's why I'm using Kira and the Reptiles, just because they're easy as far as picking them out. I don't have to try and think too much. Yeah, I've seen some people actually use him for defense, not PvP defense, but I've seen some people do defensive Furno, and I'm not really sure why that is. I don't think Lily's gonna get nerfed personally. Although with as much action she gets in PvP now, it's possible that that subject might come up, but I don't see it as likely. Alright, so this is about as good of a setup as we could ask for. Everybody's gone now, and they're all diseased from Cobalt, except for Kira now, probably. Nope, he's still diseased. Go ahead and use this one. I think I definitely have the advantage here. So Torchy, Bulbous, Sume, and Hansuke. The thing with that one is none of those guys are really meta PvP heroes. And that's kind of a bummer, because you're going to get lit up pretty bad about any fast teams. Because your Torchy, even if you have maxed out health and defense, not that, maxed out attack, he's probably not going to kill very many people, and even if he could, he can only kill one. So anybody that comes in with Shade and Shadowblade, they have an instant kill there to kill your Bulbous, and then your slow mechanic is already gone. But Torchy, Bulbous, Sume, Hansuke, honestly, that's going to get beaten by basically a full fast team. So I would run Kira, and then Shade, Shadowblade, and Torchy, and it would beat it 3 stars with no deaths. I could all but guarantee it. So with a lower level, you're probably going to be a little bit better. So level 24 is, I guess, that might hold water, but I can't guarantee. I would have to think a little bit on that as far as where you would be there. Yep, you betcha. I mean, I've certainly seen some of the non-meta heroes do well at lower levels. I had plenty of good experiences there myself, but I also was very, very lucky, and I got Grognog and Koros very, very early. They were featured early on, and so I just happened to get them with my first times 10 summons. So this here was a good Furno example. And then the high defense on Lily just kept her alive. You should have asked customer service to get your account back. I hear that's kind of a thing. But honestly, I have both of my accounts backed up to the 9s. There's no way I'm ever going to lose my progress. If you follow the forums at all, there's a guy on there that lost his stuff for like a week and a half, and it was awful. I'm like, I have both of my things backed up on 2 different mobile devices and on those emulators, so I'm not losing anything ever. So if my phone dies or is stolen or whatever, I still have my laptop and I can still play there. So we got a refresh now, and that Chris guy is gone now. So now we can look at a different one. Another damage team here. I think this could be. It's basically the exact same thing. So we can really use the exact same team. See if it holds water. So Cobalt should stay alive long enough to disease, and if he dies, he's going to disease anyways, so we're pretty good there. The burn on Lily was pretty rough last time around, but I don't know what the Facebook login is, honestly. I didn't want my account tied to my Facebook account, but I just... I have my new phone and I have an old phone, so I have two phones, and one's just a new account, one's old account. And then I have an old tablet and I have a new tablet, so one's my main account, one's the alt account, and then the emulator is just dual emulator, so everything just works fine. Yeah, Big Fish account is what one of them is, and then I think I sign in with Google Plus on my main account. I can't remember exactly. Alright, so this should be disease now. Cures disease, which is what I wanted. So the real thing here is we don't want Furno to die, but I also don't want to waste the sapping vines because the last round, it expired just a tad too soon. So I'm going to save the sapping vines for the next turn. There's Hopper taking a little bit of damage there, so here's one thing I love to do. Because when you steal this buff from Furnace, it gives everybody that extra fire damage, and that is like the real deal. So now, stupid Shade is Spirit Link. That's kind of a bummer. It's gonna hit back, but hopefully not too bad. Alright, so who do we want to kill here? I feel like Kira's the bad one. Didn't quite go down. Alright. I don't even remember what the thing is. Champion, I don't even know if my alt is in Champion. I think my 55 is trolling around down in like Brawler 1. It's pretty sad actually. Cobalt is Alright, so now we're in kind of a pickle here because that Cobalt's gonna just unleash hell here. So I can either turn Furno into a plant. This is gonna give damage reflection, but not enough. Or I can do this here and give evasion. I don't know which is gonna be better at this point. I think there might both be kind of out of luck here. I think I'm going to go with the evasion because that'll at least help my Hopper, and I know Hopper can last quite a while. So as long as nobody is poisoned or anything, we should be alright. I'm usually up till 2, so I don't feel like I need to get some sleep just yet. I usually game till 2. I'm usually up till about 2:30 or so. Alright, so the big threat here is probably Cobalt because of his AoE. So let's gank that sumbitch. Sapping Vines is going to help big time. Just keeps me alive. Love that evasion. So now let's kill Shade and then it's all over. Oh, she cleansed. do this just for safety's sake. It's that dang disease on here too. So let's do reducing their attack by 50%. Can't go wrong with that. Ha, she survived. Eight stacks of plant growth. That's what I'm talking about. Man, that disease sucks, though. Alright, we'll light him up. Enough's enough. Can't lose now. Literally no chance to lose. Even with that 0 damage, she's toast. She'll never ever beat my Hopper. She can't. Alright. So, guessing there's a lot of people that are just idle. Because it says there's 17 people in here, but really I only think there's like 3. So I think maybe this probably would be a good time to call it for the night, being that it wasn't, there's not a ton of people in here. But it went kind of how I wanted. I wanted to do some Q&A stuff. I wanted to show some other specific things. It's tough to demonstrate certain PvP things if they don't come up in the actual PvP defenses. So, but it looks like I'm actually at a nice point where there's some easier teams here to come up. So maybe what we'll do is we'll go against this Furno team. We haven't actually attacked a Furno team yet. So I'll do this one here before we call it for the night. So we just have to figure out what we actually want to do with it. So the main thing is we have to understand the order of it. Not to do anything super awesome before Furno goes. So being that it is a rocky team, my go-to is going to be Koros for sure. So all we're going to do... Honestly, it doesn't even matter who we pick. This is going to be a one-shot victory. I'll do this. I'll do this just to brag. And maybe not, because Furno might kill somebody. Actually, no, he won't. Let's do this. This would be pretty ballsy. But sometimes you just like to rub it in people's faces. Like I said, when I first started the other one, I feel like at certain times you have to, you just have to troll people. So with great streaming power comes great troll ability. And who knows, maybe something happens here, but I think, yeah, with the reduced... This is what I wanted. Disease removed. His Furno's gonna go. Nobody's gonna do anything. Where did his... I didn't know his skill burned up immunity. That's kind of interesting. I'll have to look at that a little bit closer. It's like his skill destroys buffs. No, it's the wildfire is what it is. Wildfire prevents buffs. Interesting. That must have been part of the mechanic, but this is what I'm expecting now. Purge all these guys and... Oh, Lily dodged. Well, I guess this is going to be a longer one. And yes, I knew that Koros would not... kill Furno. I knew that was going to happen. It looks a little bit suspect here. I mean, I wasn't expecting Lily to dodge. Was not expecting Lily to dodge. So, yes. Mr. Tong ZX6R, he can laugh at me for this one. but it was certainly fun to try. I mean, who expects Lily to dodge, honestly? So had she not, probably would have beat 2-on-1, but it's okay. I said I like to play with PvP more than anything. I said I'm not competing for number one or anything like that. So as long as I do my normal grind to get to Legend 1, I like to play around with other teams. So I don't mind losses. I certainly wouldn't do that if I was rocking a streak of 25 or 30, but when you're not on a streak, it's not a big deal. Yeah, that's a good note to end on. Maybe we should find somebody sad to beat here. All right, this is gonna be a fun one. So Ponty is all right. So we'll kill him. Grognog, I'm not concerned about. Oh, I have to reset though. Let's get some guys off the bench here. So the only thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure I kill Ponty because he's the only real dangerous one. But we're gonna bring some guys off the bench and get them in the game here. So I'm gonna kill Ponty with Shadowblade. And then the couple of you that are left, do your worst. Pick whoever you want, and we'll bring them in here and see if we can win this one. So I'll give everyone a free vote in terms of who's going to join the team. Not one of the PvP metas here. I'm not saying let's bring in Koros and one-shot the team. So literally anybody else. Samurai Takume, not Kira. Kira's going to kill them easily, even with the Kai. I think Samurai for sure. Bulbous would probably womp him pretty good too. Cobressa, okay, she's pretty powerful too. Don't we want to? Apparently, Jason's the only one that gets my point here. Bulbous is tough. Takume is not. So what I would normally do is Ella would be a fun one because she could charm him. But we're definitely bringing in Samurai. Baylog, yes, let's do Baylog. Get that silence on there. We're picking the superstars now. And then one more. Oh, I know who it is. Yep, you guessed it. There we go. All right, so with Ponty dead, we should be able to be okay here. And actually, Phenol's not that bad. If he gets to attack that, and I think with the way skill works, I think that poison damage is something. I think. So I don't have rune. I don't think I have runes on any of these three guys. So it might be. It might honestly be the Shadowblade show. But I'm gonna go for some poison against Grognog. So these guys shouldn't be tough enough to be able to kill me. So I think everybody's at least gonna get a turn. And we deal with the main threat here. That's really all I want to do. I actually brought Baylog in off the bench one other day just because I was bored. The team that I went against was an easy... I mean, Kira was going to kill two guys off the bat, so I didn't need anybody else, really. There, everybody's going to get a turn, so... Samurai versus Torchy. Light them up, huh? A little bit underwhelming. Alright. Kai or Grognog. I'm going to go with Kai just because he's got that stupid... I don't even know what it's called. Yeah, eat it. Okay, thoughts. Do we want to silence or do we want to taunt? I'll take suggestions here. Silence versus taunt. Revenge thing. Yeah, I don't know what the hell that means. Yeah, let's taunt. Oh, Samurai bit it. Oh, you're right. The snow day. Forgot about that. It's all about knowing your opponent, right? Should probably kill him before he comes back. Oh, I didn't do it. Jabberjaw let me down. The old no crit mechanic from Grognog is kind of a pain. Well, that's kind of a bummer. I really had high hopes for this one. You're right, though. I should have did the silence. That may have saved me. Zappy comment. You know what? I'll do you a solid here. Let me check my friends list. It fluctuates. I'll see if you're on here, though. Yes, I agree. Silence would have been the way to go. That was hindsight on my part. I listened to the first chat that came up and they said taunt, so let's do friends. We are at 46 out of 48, so some people must have dropped, or I must have brought some down. Zappy. Comet. There you go. Nailed it. Battle Tanker. I remember you now. Yeah, we've spoken a few times, I think, and just in GroupMe chat. So it's going to come down to whoever accepts first. How about we spell it right? We're already friends. How about that? Okay. All right. Well, it's getting close to 2, so I think we're about ready to call it. So I'll try and come up with some more tangible things for the next stream, and hopefully we get more people. I was hoping to ultimately get around 50, but honestly, with what we saw, I mean, it's really late. It's like really late, so I definitely don't blame people for like being in bed or on vacation with their family or something like that. So, yeah, I'll definitely I'll send out a few more friend requests. I'll look back through the chat here and I'll request the last couple, and you guys can accept them or don't accept them. Doesn't really matter, but we're gonna call it for tonight, and then we'll be back at it with regular videos tomorrow. So tomorrow's gonna be a hopper video. After that, I got some other stuff to wrap up with some of the campaign mode and stuff like that. And, you know, alrighty. Yeah, so in the future, I think we're going to be a little bit more raid centric. I wanted to make sure that we got some Q&A in there too, just because I know a lot of people love just asking questions or getting opinions. The next time we stream, if we do it during a more prime time hour, we can, start moving runes around to really experiment with some of the teams, so that we can get concrete answers to certain teams. So, with that said, we'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up. I'm just gonna say that Mr. C Green, I hear you loud and clear there. I'm not gonna give any other details, but I do hear you. So stay tuned. All right, so I'm gonna call it here, and I'll go ahead and shut this down, and you can find me on the rest of my videos, and then we'll reconvene here in, I don't know, maybe a month or so. We'll see how it goes. If people start requesting it more, then we'll set a date. I just got to set a date and time and see what it looks like. So, for those of you that are still here, thanks for swinging by and hanging out for a bit, and hopefully we'll do it again soon enough. So, take care, good night, and if you're over across the pond, good morning and such. So, we will see you next time.